All right, people. Welcome again to a after-hour edition of Chaos Reign. As I wait for people to come aboard, I know tonight is a lot of things are going on. A lot of people are putting out some content. Some streams are going on, but nonetheless, information has to be dissected, put out, and look and evaluate very clearly. So, as I wait, let me just see things on my other end. I guess my computer has gotten very slow. I don't know why, but Matter of fact, let me go to it directly. Okay. Let me see how I sound. Okay, I do sound good. Very good. Okay. All right. So I might go back and forth with the chat room, potentially. Or I might not. Don't know. We'll see. So let me but on the meanwhile, I will share my screen to present the article. Okay. And as people see the screen, and this is from the Atlantic Black Star Press. Mm, 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 mm. Now, the purpose of this is to delve more into this, but I really want people to understand this about history. That history is always ever changing. It never stops. You understand, you grow, you learn, etc. But history is what we like to say, like a rubric or a roadmap to where things are and how to get to there. As a matter of fact, let me share some links to this. I don't know why my computer is so slow. Maybe if I exit this, I'll probably yeah, I might do that. See, this will correct it. Oh no, okay, it's working now. All right, so let me go to my channel. So I can see what everything's going on. Okay, I can see from my end. All right, perfect. I can see. Oh, it's still doing the same thing. All right. So I probably will have to exit out of this because it's too slow. I won't be tapping in the chat room. So any of my mods that do come in, please, like always, tell people to like the video as you come in, or comment, like, and subscribe. You know the drill. You know how things go. Cause this thing is tripping right now. And if I could fix this. All right. Let me see if I restart it up, it might fix it. Let's see, I'm looking here now. Okay. Okay, we could probably begin. As you know, it says here, research by a Black female professor reveals sterling truth that white women made up 40% of the slave owners. Now, if people remember from previous streams, there were certain rules and laws put place during the creation of the United States of America in 1776. And one of those articles, if I could recall, which I probably could pull up right now, and let me see if I can pull it up. Could usually, I did have the link to that same video, which I'm pulling up now. But I recall it said that not just non-Black women owned slaves, but also Black women owned slaves as well during that time. And this information was brought to me by the Gray regime, as y'all know. So not something I just go my time to go look for this information. I sit there, pick out apart, and find things that were very intriguing, and it has not been talked about, ironically. As my thing go, okay, now it's working, good. Let me go in and to my other channel and see if I can pull up this article. I will probably leave this article on the other chat, the end of this video, so people can see a link for this and the other one I'm talking about. But let's read into it while I'm waiting for the load. Let's scroll down. A set of data uncovered by the University of California, Berkeley professor reveals Southern white women played a heavy role in the enslavement of Africans than previous thought. Stephanie E. Jones Rogers. Now, mind you, a lot of the people from the YouTube space, especially some women, were bringing this information out. And my logical reason why they do this is trying to show the Black male or the Black man that, see, the same Becky that you love and coerce and, fucking suck, also own your Black ass as slaves. But I'm not sure why this is surprising. Nothing's new under the sun. This should not be even surprising, because remember, most white women had and gained access to a lot of things by officers of their man, and usually they don't get that until their man has made a transition, which most Europeans during that time did die premature back then, and they live a little longer now. But back then, the most average lifespan back then in the 17 to 1800s, or actually 18th century going on to 19th century, was probably lifespan of a non-Black person was probably on the average 40 to 50 years old, maybe less than 40 years old. So that's, how they, once he has transitioned, then all the deeds, the property, the stocks were given over to his wife or to a woman that was alive and around. And most European men at the time, if their wives lived longer than them, they normally would give their property and deeds and all that they hold to their slave holder's mistress as well. So don't be fooled. All right, let's go into it. All right. An associate professor of history at the University of Combined Thought and Data from the 1850 and I think 1860 census has revealed that white women made up around 40% of slave owners. Now, mind you, this was during the period after 1776 to 1830, during and so-called conclusion of slavery. But nonetheless, they owned slaves just as well as their Eurocentric male counterparts. The findings helped Jones Rogers compile her book. They were her property, white women as slave owners in the American South. On her department page, Jones Rogers described that February 2019 released as a regional study that draws upon former enslaved people testimonies to dramatic reshape current understanding at white women economic relationship to slaves or to slavery. In the book, Jones Rogers explained that white women involvement in slavery comes from families as their slave owners' parents typically gave their daughters more enslaved people than land, which is true. And what this means is that their very identity as white Southern women are tied to the actual or the possible ownership of other people, she said, according to history.com. Her book also notes that owning enslaved Africans served as white women' primary source of wealth. Plus, owning a large number of enslaved people report made women better marriage material. Mm. Once wed, white women were said to have fought and frequently won the rights to continue to have ownership over their enslaved Africans, not handing over ownership to their husbands. From them, slavery was their freedom. Jones Rogers stated in her book, after Maryland Washington married President George Washington in Virginia in 1759, George is said to have possibly owned around 18 people, but his wife, one of the richest women in the states, owned 84 and dramatically increased the local slave population. Arguing that white women are trained to be engaged in the slavery industry at a young age. Jones Rogers state there's exposure to the slave market is not something that begins in adulthood. It begins in their homes when they're little girls, sometimes infants, when they're given enslaved people as gifts. And there was a good little movie documentary that revealed this. Do y'all remember Goodbye Uncle Tom? What's up, Dark Sin? What's good? Every good with you, brother? If y'all remember Goodbye Uncle Tom, you remember that movie Goodbye Uncle Tom, Dark Sid? In that movie, they show a Caucasian woman with a black slave boy with a leash around his neck, carrying around like a dog. Ain't that funny? They were gifts, they were toys, they were animals to the European woman. But you know, a lot of black males today don't want to look at it or see it like that because they got in their mind back in the head, said, I got to have her. I got to have her. But you know, that's all psychological training at the end of the day. Let's continue. Jones Rogers demonstrate that in her book by including interviews with former enslaved people conducted in the 1930s through the New Deal Agency, Work Progressive Administrator. One formerly enslaved woman said children were ruthless, beaten, enslaved people. It didn't matter whether the child was large or small. They always beat you till the blood ran down, she said. And here's a depicted picture. Yes, it's very crazy, Dark Sid. And that's one of the slave auctions. Let's keep going. Of the United States. This is a picture in 1870 engraved for by Universal History Archives. Once they came of age, white women also report got involved in the slave market. Aside from beating slaves once they owned them, white women bought, sold, and sought out their return, and the notion flips the previous belief of scholar to white women abstinence from engaging in such activity as it was deemed improper. As the women got pregnant and had their own family, they reportedly they orchestrate sexual assaults between enslaved people so that enslaved black women could be available to nurse white women's children. This, in addition to learning enslaved women babies always from them, so they could nurse white women's children and avoid becoming, as Jones Rogers state, as white woman slave owner said, a slave to her children. Advertisement for wet nursing were plastered through newspapers. Report created a massive market for enslaved black women who recently delivered children. There were instances in which former enslaved people did, in fact, said that their mistress either sanctioned acts of sexual violence against them that were perpetrated at the hands of white men, or that they orchestrate instances of sexual violence between two enslaved people that they own in hopes of producing children from those acts of sexual violence, Jones Rogers said. Mm. Yes, how you doing, Vadi Harris? Good. If you don't mind, Vadi, I made you mod. If you don't mind, let people know to comment, to always like and or comment, subscribe, like the videos, or like the video if you can. Thank you. I appreciate it if you could. White women were also said to have gone through great lengths to maintain ownership of their slaves and Civil War wage on. Hold on a second. All right. History.com reports that one woman, Maria Gibbs, forced enslaved Africans to Texas and threatened them with a gun to continue working for her through 1866, the year after slavery was officially abolished, and it was abolished by 65, but it didn't take effect till then. Um, let's go down. Even after the institution was outlawed, Southern white women report dawdle out work contracts that exploit black people to work under slave-like conditions. Some describe it as a binging industry, as Margaret Mitchell's did in Gone with the Wind. The same idea was created out through a textbook thus discussing enslaved today. As recent as April 2018, it was exposed that students in Texas had been using a textbook that stated not all enslaved Africans were unhappy. Mm. Now, mind you, you see that crap right there? And this is why the importance of we have to control the narrative, understand our history. And you know, the one thing, funny thing about Texas, as much as the red state it is, not only is racist, but it likes to keep things on the rug about the role of the European man and woman role in enslaving African people. And I want that to sink in a little bit. To say that you were not unhappy, that you were unhappy or were unhappy, which was like a lie. Because most people that were enslaved and conditioned for a long time can't be really thinking that they had a good life or a happy life because their life was uncertain. They didn't do anything or did certain things, they would get mostly a whipping till the blood runs to the back, or get some far worse punishment. Nonetheless, that during slavery there was no such thing as happiness for a person that lived as a worker most of their life. Till they like pretty much die, most likely. But yeah. Let's go on. Still, Jones Rogers argued in her book that white women ideology and sentimental connection to slavery were the only things that made them defend the practice. She remarks that women who were around during enslavement would have done the same. And that is the end of this article here. Yeah. Whoa. Imagine that. Wow. Let me stop sharing. let me stop sharing my screen for a bit. As y'all see that with the history and its clearance. And the reason why I'm recapping this, just to keep the conversation going, that why does it even matter today? Even back then now, and it's coming from one of our own sisters to reveal the information that 40% of non-black women own slaves. Now there could be an agenda here that she's trying to clear up or show to the black men that it's not only the European man that put you in slave, but this European would play a heavy role in your enslavement. Now I give her credit to keep not only that conversation going, but to reveal that information to those who will sit there, take it to heart, and look into it more. But my thing is this, because the situation of the black nation or the black race, especially to the black man, he doesn't really care if the so-called Eurocentric women, or they like to call Becky, play a heavy role in his enslavement. And the reason why I'm saying this is because he, just like the black female, have been conditioned to look at the European or the non-black people as gods. And like anything, when you look at somebody as a god or you're a superior, you will not question or dictate their rule over you or what they've done to you back then. Because really, to really deal with them is fighting against your God that you've been indoctrinated for centuries. And to know that this European woman that you've been trained in loving, to find that this is the best thing coming and that is better than your own woman, you are sadly mistaken. But don't give, but I want to give our sisters off the hook either, because they have a certain propensity to not understand the actual history of their world too. See, one thing in regards to healing the black nation, we have to understand our role and what the men did wrong and what the women did just as wrong. We cannot live this all because a man and a woman have no fault. That's foolishness. That's nonsense. Because you have to play a role in what you play a part in regards to enslavement and destruction of the black nation. Ladies, black ladies, my sisters. The only reason why I'm doing this skid video or this stream on this is to recap what this sister brought forth. And she brought this forth just to reveal the information not to you, but to the men that sit there, love, and go out the way outside the race to go marry and procreate. That's the reason why she came up with this information. She really came up for the men, the brothers. And it goes for a very distinct jealousy that a lot of black women have with the non-black female counterparts, especially in America. It's a natural feeling, but no one said if you continue to operate the way you are, you will not gravitate or keep or get a black man in this time right now, in the century we're in now, the 21st century. Because as you know, we are in a stage of admixture where they're trying to mix in every race known to man as possible. Which either they'll succeed or unsucceed, who knows? When you project something that you want to see in this country or entirely for the next 40 years of a much more homogenous, ambiguous looking society, where it doesn't look white or black, but other, you should always ask these questions and think in the back of your mind, how are you going to attain or accomplish this? Well, one of the things you'll do, you got to keep black males and black females divided and fighting amongst each other. Next, you have to sit there, promote, which you already have with your media outlets, the beauty of your race. As you know, most of my articles from TV to magazines and even IG, you'll see some sisters that have the nice shaped body, but they'll also have the non-black woman with the same shaped body, even more, whether it's real or fake. And she will get more attention because she is that so-called representation of beauty and standard that a lot of brothers will sit there flock to. Because ladies, you do not control imagery. And if you think you're going to outcompete Becky if she has your body and she has her stringy hair, you sadly mistaken. You're going to have to do things different. You might have no choice but to go back to your original look. And normally going back to original look will start attracting non-black men to you. Look, know this. Everything is a psychological game. You have to really compete and do things enough to grab to and capture this so-called black man. You have to. If you're really serious at getting a man. Because sitting there and think that you think you could attract every man that's having to sleep with you is enough. It's not going to work. And not only is the reason why it don't work because you need more than just being one fucking dump and that's it. You want to be taken serious and build onto that man so you and him could build a family, which will eventually lead to children, prosperity. So I give credit to Miss Jones for bringing this information out for a lot of us that didn't really look into, and I really had to look into it because I already know that from reading the article Mr. Cerulean Gray presented to me back in 1776 to 1830, how women were entitled to own property and slaves if their spouse dies. And that was issued and put in effect just as America was established back in 1776. So to find that 40% of the non-black women owned slaves was a precursor of what was owned and given to them by the laws and powers of this country, America. So I share the links. I think I said enough on my part on this. Let me just look right now, see what's going on. Yeah. Okay, so I will leave the links to not only this article, but the previous one from a previous stream I've done on this. So that way people get a full glimpse of the whole story. And it seems like no one else is here. So on that note, let the chaos reign.